Danny watches a lot of television and movies. John does not. Listen in as she tells him about what she's watching, and he tries to make sense of it all. Welcome to Watching My Stories with Danny and John.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to Watching My Stories.
Thank you.
I'm Danny.
Oh, and I'm John.
You're who?
I'm John.
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
I say good day, sir.
Already?
Oh, yeah. I don't know what that means, but...
So, hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're doing this on a Sunday morning, so I'm a little sleepy for some reason.
Yeah.
I think it was the breakfast.
It was the breakfast, probably.
But we're going to try and get through this.
Yeah.
So this week I don't have any movies. I have a bunch of documentaries and then some TV shows, and then we are going to discuss Matthew Broderick in the Actors Corner.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who you did. Do you have a list anywhere?
It's on my phone.
And your phone is somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's great. Living with a spouse with ADD, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, I've got an idea. You vamp for a while. I'm going to go get my phone.
Yeah, that's going to make a ton of noise. Let's just hang on. 1 hour later. My God, that just took him way too long to get up and do stuff. We're moving on. Okay, we're going to get started. So, like I said, I don't have any actual movies, but a bunch of documentaries to talk about. The first one is probably the one that everyone in the country is talking about. The world is the Allen versus Farrow documentary series on HBO. So, the grand scope of this is it's the Woody Allen and Mia Farrow saga where their daughter Dylan at 7 years old accused him of molesting her, raping her, sexually assaulting her, all of that. This was a really, really interesting documentary. And here's where I got angry watching it because I didn't know this stuff. This all came about in the early 90s. I was in high school. I should have been aware of these things, but I don't remember ever hearing about any of this.
You were in high school. How much news did you pay attention to?
This was a big deal. And, again, being into movies and all that. Now, I will admit, back then, I was not a Woody Allen fan whatsoever. I wouldn't even say I'm a Woody, well, obviously now, not at all. But I started enjoying some of his movies more in the 2000s, like the ones that he wasn't in, because I never really liked him that much. Mm-hmm. But when Hugh Jackman, Colin Firth, Midnight in Paris, those that he wasn't in that much or that he wasn't the central love interest in, I started to like those movies, the ones that were set in Europe. They weren't in New York. And so again, if I had known any of this, I wouldn't have even given those a shot, and he wouldn't have had the ability to continue to make movies, because I think what worked, his legal team strategy to cover the story up by admitting the relationship he had with the other daughter, Suni, that worked. Because I remember at the time knowing about that and going, oh, that's really weird, and what a weird guy, and blah, 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 but not knowing he was an actual
very creepy,
monster.
But not technically illegal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very oogie.
Very oogie. But I also not, again, being a movie fan that I am, but not a Woody Allen fan, I didn't know even the history of his films, his first 20 years of films, that always had him with a young girl in the movies. I guess his love interests in all these early movies were usually a 17, 18-year-old girl. And I didn't know that either, to even recognize that as a pattern. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so that's me kind of putting my thing in there of how angry I am that I didn't know it, because I did enjoy those movies, in the early 2000s and stuff. Of course, the musical that he wrote, which came out about this time in the 90s, Everyone Says I Love You, is one of my favorite movies, but I guess I have to rethink that now. So anyway, yeah, I hope at this point it appears online that he seems to be canceled. This all during the Me Too movement. Dylan came out again and really spoke her truth, and that really canceled him at that point. His movies in the last few years have not been released in the U.S., and so that's good. It's been way too long, but we'll take it, right? So it's a very interesting piece. Mia Farrow speaks very frankly. You can kind of put some judgment on her if you wanted to, because it did seem like she gave him a lot of leeway when it came to being around Dylan. She spotted some things and still didn't really put a stop to it, but we're not going to do that because she's not the monster here. He is. So, some people, I guess, could decide not to believe Dylan, but when you see this footage and you see how many times she spoke about this as a young child and she never changed her story, and there were other people that were there who testified that they could not find her, and there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of things that went wrong. There's some institutions that were really wrong. There really were a lot of people who. Woody Allen was a big power, and he had a lot of people doing things for him to make things go his way. Mm-hmm. So if people want to remember that story and go, oh, no, he was exonerated, they found that he was not. No, that's not actually what happened. So go watch this and you'll see why that's the memory that you have when that's not really actually what happened. Yeah. So it's very, very interesting. I wish Dylan the best. She's good now. She's married. Not good. You're never good after all of that, but she's married. She has a child. She knows, she's worked on a lot, and, it's a horrible thing that she went through and had to live through. And again, to not be believed for so much of your life. What a horrible thing to have to go through. Yeah. But really well done documentary. Well done documentary. So it was on HBO, so now it's on HBO Max. Definitely check it out. Very interesting, and you do hear from Woody's side. He didn't give interviews for the documentary, but they used his audiobook, and he speaks about all of this in his audiobook and tries to give his side of things, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing, so I'm almost not even a casual observer of this, but just a little bit that I watched was kind of towards the end where they kind of synopsized, or you got to see kind of everything, and it's really, to me, it was so obvious. I mean, you look at everything about the whole ordeal in his life and everything he's done and ever done and is still doing and whatever, and you think about, is it such a stretch to believe that he did this? And the overwhelming answer for me is no. It's not a stretch at all.
Right. When you do put it all together, and again, that's kind of where I came in going, oh, I did not have. Yeah. I probably didn't even have 25% of the story in my knowledge. So,
and it's because his people or people sympathetic to him really made an effort to make it that way.
Well, and on the whole, New York, he was this icon, and he brought money in because he did all his movies there, and he was incredibly respected, and it was just it's one of those things where these men in power, right, and how they were all just allowed to like, he was in the documentary, they show, I think, the Golden Globes in like 2014 or something, and he was given the Cecil B. DeMille Award, and all these people came on and were just being so wonderful about him, all these actors and stuff. And that was where Ronan Farrow started his first thing, where he tweeted out, "Love the Golden Globe celebration. Did they mention the part where he, raped a 7-year-old and all this stuff?" And that brought back the story starting then. And even then, she still wasn't believed. A lot of these actors were coming out saying, I still stand by Woody and all this sort of crap. It really took the Me Too movement where she was able to jump back into that and go, okay, so Harvey Weinstein, blah, blah, blah. What about Woody Allen? Can we talk about this now? And that was when finally people were like, oh, okay, yeah, now I'm going to stand with you, Dylan, which, again, is horrible that she had to go all that time. But unfortunately, that is how this country kind of works. We go on, we jump on bandwagons, but
we are
as long as it happened.
We are where we are.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of bad things that have happened in the past, and there will be a lot of bad things that happen in the future. Let's hope that the stuff that happens in the future, we've learned lessons from the past.
Yeah.
We're now more aware, and things are more in the open, and we see, and there is momentum behind. This is the dumbest thing to have to say. There is now momentum behind believing the woman. Well,
we hope so, but we're in this fight right now with Governor Cuomo too. So it's.
I don't think there's anybody that doesn't believe the women. I
don't think so, but he still is. I know a lot of people, cancel culture, we can get into that whole thing, but he's not willing to step down. So what happens? So anyway, I don't want to get into all that. Yeah. But good documentary. Definitely go see it.
Yeah.
And yes, believe the woman. We're going to take a sharp right turn now.
Okay.
This is actually an older documentary that came out last year that we did want to watch. And we never got around to it. And then finally saw it was on Netflix yesterday, and so we watched it.
Yeah.
Called The Last Blockbuster.
Uh-huh.
So this is kind of an interesting documentary that focuses on a Blockbuster store in Bend, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
It starts a few years ago where there were actually like 17 or 18 stores left in the Blockbusters in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time the documentary comes to an end in 2020, the one in Bend, Oregon is actually the last Blockbuster store in the country, in the world.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of celebrities in it that are talking about Blockbuster, Kevin Smith and Adam Brody. No, is that his name?
I don't
know. Jamie Kennedy and
Paul Scheer,
who worked at one. Like there are some of these guys that worked at a Blockbuster, and then some that just are reminiscing.
Right.
And it was really interesting, and I feel like now, because I kept pausing it and kept talking, I feel like maybe I blew my wad, and I don't want to necessarily make you sit here and listen.
It's fine.
But it was so wonderful.
It was incredibly nostalgic.
Yes, it was amazing how it brought back so many memories, and how much I loved going to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, again, as a kid, it was a mom and pop video store to begin with. There was only one that I remember being in our local mall, and I used to have to go into that one.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I remembered the name of it. And then when Blockbuster came around, obviously, then you join that. And with my family, it was a normal thing. It seemed to be just a normal. We all had our own membership cards, so that I could go if I was with anyone else, I could go get my own movies. I go, then going into high school, and it was, if it was me and my friends just hanging out, going to Blockbuster, figuring out what movies we were going to get. I then, after high school, it was me by myself going and just getting whatever movies I wanted. I loved it. I loved the experience of it. I loved having to take them back because then I knew I could get more, I didn't have that thing where it was like, oh, I had to rush and watch it and take it. Well, I'm getting it to watch it. I don't understand that problem. I had a routine of, I beeline straight back, and usually I knew on Tuesdays the new releases came out. I would try and get there as much as I could, beeline straight back to the new releases, and just walk my way down that as fast as I could, just grabbing whatever I could. It was an experience. It was truly, and that's what they talk about so much in this movie, is just the smell of it, the feel, especially with the VHS, because when I was watching them open and close that container,
the cases,
it's like,
yeah,
I wanted to grab it from the thing and do it myself, because that click, click, click is so...
Those sounds are, they're such dog whistles. They're just the flood of memories that they bring back, because it's like, oh yeah, that sound.
Yes, because you would hear as they would behind the counter as they were, putting them in and closing them, opening them. Oh,
I remember distinctly. I remember distinctly watching, getting videos, taking it home. You open up the case, that snap that it made when it opened is like, oh,
yep.
okay, it's about to happen. And you watch the movie, and then you go to put it away, and clicking it closed was like such a finality of it's over. This is over.
Yeah.
I remember that distinctly.
Yeah.
And so watching this documentary for me, I did not expect somebody to come along and put a warm blanket on me. But about 2/3 of the way through, I was suddenly like, oh, I've got a warm blanket on.
Yeah.
It was such it was simultaneously very nostalgic, but also very reassuring that all the experiences I had as a kid were shared with millions of people, because who didn't hang around for a little bit longer on Friday when there was a the movie you wanted, the new release you wanted was out, but somebody was due to bring it in at like by 5:00, so you're there at 4:58, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna I'm hanging out here for a while because I want to be.
I totally would.
Everybody did that.
Yeah. I mean, you had to, because otherwise you wouldn't get the movie you wanted.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was such a. I looked up how long it'll take us to get there. Like we're 12, 13 hours away from this place. I'm like, that's a good road trip. San Francisco's in the middle. We can take it and go to this last Blockbuster, because I'm like, I just, now it's all DVDs, and once they've switched to DVDs, I think was when we talked about that too. So in the documentary, it does go through the beginning of Blockbuster. It goes through the beginning of mom and pop video rentals, how that worked, and then how Blockbuster came in and they took over with the revenue sharing program that they hooked up with the studios and kind of shut down all the mom and pop shops. And then it does go into the fall of Blockbuster, which again, most people blame on Netflix. I still believe that that's the beginning of it. But there were a lot of things that they do show in the documentary that also were huge contributors to the fall of Blockbuster. But in looking at that, it made me realize I joined Blockbuster in July of 2000. So I'm going on 21 years of being with Netflix. And so I haven't gone to a Blockbuster since 2000, because again, once they switched to DVDs in July of 2000, I bought my first DVD player and I joined Netflix immediately.
I'm very happy to say I went to Blockbuster well past 2000. Yeah.
For me, the ease of Netflix was just so incredible, and I had I constantly had 4 movies in my home to watch. So it was just brilliant to me at the time. But watching this and remembering how much I miss Blockbuster, of course, there's like that weird split of memories for the two.
Well, in time, it's interesting how time has changed, how we look at things, because for a while, if you went to Blockbuster to get your videos after like 2005 or 2004, people are like, oh, that's kind of sad. That's so sad for you. Right. And now it's like, well, good for you for hanging in there and sticking in there. And, it's almost reverse. It's like you went from being a sad person to being like, one of the strong people for holding your ground.
It's been, and it makes you think of the whole experience, right? So for me, I'm definitely, I would say I was behind the curve in a lot of ways, where I still would go and buy all my movies, and I loved buying all the movies, and I had bookshelves full of, my movies. And over the years, as streaming has come in, it took me a long time to go, why would I want to buy a movie streaming? I want the movie. I want to have it, own it, touch it, feel it. And it didn't make sense to me to buy it and it's digital and whatever. And so it took a long time for me to get to that point. And over the years, as we've moved, I continue to get rid of a lot of the DVDs or Blu-rays. I now have only one shelf of movies left. Those are my kind of diehards, like ride or dies that I just love and I don't want to ever get rid of. But it's so, even when I'm watching this last Blockbuster, and I pointed it out, the majority of the movies they have there are actually DVDs. They would only have a few Blu-rays per film. And I was like, who's watching a DVD of Captain Marvel? Because that quality is horrible. number one. The Blu-ray, of course, is better, but when you get streaming in 4K and all that, like, how you can't compete with that anymore. Because even in the documentary, Kevin Smith says, I hope that video rental stores will come back the way that record stores have come back. And of course, I would love it for that experience, but no one wants to watch anything on film anymore, like in a VHS stuff. The quality is awful. Like, wow. So that kind of thing to me, it's different with a record. People love vinyl. They love the way it sounds. That's not, if we go back, there's nothing else that's going to give us the quality that we have with streaming right now. So,
well, so that might be the case, or maybe somebody needs to come out with the next generation of DVD where it's not necessarily Blu-ray that's specific, but it's whatever, the high quality DVD. Right, because like you said, about your shelf of videos, you still want that tangible ability to hold it in your hand, click the case closed, whatever. And I think there's a lot of people out there where if the quality, I don't know, it's going to be a niche market like the vinyl, like the record stores, right? But I can see some stores coming back or new stores coming in that are DVD or something driven, that are like the vinyl stores, that the quality is as good as what you can get on Netflix or HBO Max or whatever, but you get that experience of going to the store, you get your popcorn, you get your red vines, you get whatever.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because even as they were talking about Bend, Oregon in general, like they had a Radio Shack until a year ago. Yeah. They had a Sam Goody. Like it's almost like stepping into a time warp there. So, I love that they're still going. I love the woman Sandy who runs it. Her whole family's been involved in this, and I really do appreciate it, and I definitely want to go visit. But I'm not sure that.
Yeah, I'm telling you
again. I think if it came back, is it something that kids actually would understand? Kids are now, they have everything at their fingertips. Would they actually be willing to stop and go, hey, Mom and Dad, like we had to do, will you take me down the Blockbuster so I can get a movie? I don't know that so it would be like our generation, and how much money can they really make off of that? I don't know.
It's like millennials and vinyl right now. A lot of the vinyl sales, record sales are going to millennials, and they never, when they were coming up,
sure,
vinyl was gone.
Sure. I think a lot of that, though, you can still even buy online. Like, you don't have to get up and go to a place and then return it a few days later. Like, there's just a different,
sure,
it's definitely a different pace than they're used to. And I will say that I didn't recognize how much I missed it until watching this documentary. It's so weird. It's so weird.
And it's really easy to sit here and, in the comfort of your own home and say, oh, man, I wish we still had a Blockbuster. If we had a Blockbuster, I'd get right back into it. And if they built one, you'd be like, nah.
I know.
Do I really want to go out?
It is different. And maybe that is it, is that it's truly just a nostalgic memory and something we wouldn't do today because we know we now have something where we don't have to.
Right.
But like I remember a lot of people went through the Redbox thing too. I don't think I've ever used a Redbox. I think because honestly, I went from Blockbuster straight to Netflix. Mm-hmm. So, but there's just a convenience that people appreciate, and but this is such a nostalgic thing. I don't know, but I do want to go look. I want to go to the store. I want to walk around, and I used to love the movies on sale. For $1 or $2, and you could go through that bin and just buy stuff. Oh my God, I did so much of that.
It's almost like they should open up a couple across the country and just charge admission. You don't rent them, but just to get that smell, and almost like a video museum or something.
Well, and like Doug Benson, or no, it was Ron Funches on there, and he had the idea of like adding a dispensary in it, and I'm like, well, in Oregon, you could. Here we could. I mean, I think that would change things. People getting up, going to the dispensary, renting a movie, like having some snacks there. That could really revolutionize the whole industry as well. I mean, but again, it truly is a nostalgic thing. And we were talking about how it was like I remember when we moved from Virginia to Tucson. I swear it was within the first 2 or 3 days that we were at the Blockbuster getting our new membership set up, you know, and it was like, I'd move across town. Where's that Blockbuster? Go get that membership. Make sure that it was like voter registration. It was something you had to do immediately, you know, and I just, it's just the best.
I forget how old you had to be to rent a video on your own, but for a period of time, for a generation, it was kind of like a rite of passage where, you know, you had your family's Blockbuster card or, you know, you used your mom and dad's and you went with them or whatever. And then there was one day where you could go and get it yourself.
I had my own card. Like the family, we each had our own card. I just couldn't rent R-rated movies, you know, like that was kind of the thing, was until you were 17 or whatever, you couldn't rent R-rated movies. But I think in high school that probably went to the wayside. But you know, before that it was.
I distinctly remember going and not being able, you know, I couldn't sign anything, I couldn't get it myself. I had to have
didn't have that
mom
problem.
or dad with me or whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, Wisconsin was a little bit.
Yeah.
Northern Wisconsin was a little bit, you know, it was very reminiscent of Bend, Oregon.
Well, again, it's not like Fredericksburg, Virginia was that much better. But obviously, I mean, I do remember being able to go in because I would go with either other family or friends or whatever, and I'd use my membership, our membership. So
anyway, it's a really good documentary.
Yes. I mean, sorry for the diversions there, but it stirs up so many memories. And I think, you know, if you have kids who've never been to a Blockbuster, like totally watch this with them.
Yeah.
Totally explain to them the experiences that you had and see what their thoughts are, you know?
I think it's going to be a case of if Blockbuster wasn't something to you when you were a teenager, young adult, you know, early 20s, whatever, then I don't know what you're going to get out of it. But if Blockbuster was anything at all to you, you're going to watch this and you're going to get sucked right in and you're going to be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that smell, you know, the colors, the sounds, the, you know, the click, click,
the click, click, the snacks, the popcorn.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to get, it's going to take you back.
Right. Yeah. So definitely check it out. Have your young kids watch it. I'd love to hear what young kids really thought of it because I'd love to hear what their thoughts are.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because it's just a different world.
Right.
I mean, that's a whole nother planet.
Right. Tapes alone, let alone, you know, having to rent something like that.
Yeah, you had to go to a store. There was a store with just DVDs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's called The Last Blockbuster. It's on Netflix now. Definitely check it out.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. All right. The next documentary I'm going to talk about also took me back to my youth. It's called Kid 90. This is a documentary. It's on HULU that Soleil Moonfry put together. Punky Brewster, everybody. So in our last podcast, I talked about the Punky Brewster reboot that's on, and it's actually quite fun. But at the same time, Soleil, it turns out, like all her youth, she carried a video camera around with her. And on top of that, it turns out that like every kid actor of the 90s that was like, all these kids are all my age. Soleil is my age and all that. Like they all hung out all the time. Like it's almost like me being at home reading my teen beat and seeing all these people and having no idea that in that moment in time they were hanging out like at Soleil's house and like all together, and it's like a dream. It's like
it was like the Breakfast Club happening off screen.
It was just, I mean, watching it, all of a sudden I was any age, quite honestly, like 14 to now 44, watching it going, why wasn't I there? Why didn't I get included in, you know, like, because it was just that thing that you imagined happened, but you had no idea was actually happening. And so, and I went nuts for this, and the only other person that I could tell about it that I knew would get it was my cousin, and she wrote me this week. She's like, yeah, I watched it. I can't believe it. It brought you back. So all the people she was hanging out with was like Mark Paul Gosselaar and Brian Austin Green and Jonathan Brandis and here's the thing, she lived a very 90s life that like I was also not part of. Like she lost her virginity to Charlie Sheen, who was like way too old, and that's not a good thing. But she actually has very fond memories of him, and that she says he was very lovely to her.
Well, at least somebody does.
Yeah, you know, and there was just so much going on, and they were out partying and doing drugs and doing all kinds of stuff. But at the same time, it was also like, it was kind of peaceful, not like a really crazy type of thing. Although during this whole stretch, there were a lot of these friends that killed themselves. I think there was like 8 of them in this documentary alone. I don't know how she really survived through all of that. But I remember as each one of these would show up, I was like, oh my God, he's going to kill himself. Like, it was super crazy. And none of it was about really the acting. It was really just about these groups of friends that she had at different times of her life, different people she dated. Like, she dated the head guy from House of Pain, that jump around, which was interesting. And then she went off to New York and she got involved in this like whole skater group of kids that became her family. Like, it was super crazy and 90s, like, could only exist in that time frame, right? And so, and she's going back and she's interviewing all Balthazar Getty and Stephen Dorff, all these guys and people that she hung out with. She's going back and interviewing them, and they're all talking about all these and how they remember her having the camera all the time. But back then it wasn't a problem, right? Because there was no social media, there wasn't any real, paparazzi wasn't bothering them, all that sort of crap. And how they were just all having a good time. And she showed them a bunch of footage and they couldn't believe, all of that. And it was super just nostalgia, turned up a notch. And I always loved her. I hated that she never really did a lot after that. She was like, she had a couple little shows and she did an episode of Friends, which, was funny. But I'm so glad she's back in Punky Brewster and it's enjoyable, and hopefully she'll get to do more stuff. But she had all of her diaries and letters. She has voicemail. She saved every voicemail that people, like Mark Wahlberg called her to go out, and she's got the voicemail of it. The last voicemail before with these friends before they killed themselves. Like, she saved everything. And she says in this that she just put it away and never revisited. And then she kind of went down this rabbit hole of going through everything. And she was actually sexually assaulted by an actor that she wouldn't name, but she relived that for us, which was really awful. But again, a lot of women have that same sort of experience. It was, for her, she was working through a lot of cathartic stuff. But at the same time, it was just mind blowing to see all these kids and how young we were and what they were all doing and having fun and working, but having fun, it was crazy. So anyway, if you're a kid of the 90s, I was a teenager in the 90s, but kid of the 80s who was like around all these ages, loved Punky Brewster, and all these people that I've been naming, it's definitely worth checking out. It's just, it'll take you back so much.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's called Kid 90 on Hulu.
Okay.
The last one I'm going to talk about is called Operation Varsity Blues. This is a new documentary on Netflix. This is about the takedown of the college admission scandal with Rick Singer. This is a bit of a reenactment, like Matthew Modine is in it and he reenacts playing Rick Singer and whatever, but then like the real FBI agents and all of that are talking about the case and how they became involved. So it was really interesting because the only thing I had seen was another Hallmark movie or something, like a Lifetime movie, and that was, a Lifetime movie. So this was actually really interesting. They really dug into what his deal was, who Rick Singer was, how he got to this point, and how he worked it, with all the universities and who he was working with, and how this was a thing, that was allowed by the universities, like that they did it. And really interesting, and went more into, actually didn't really dive into Lori Loughlin or Felicity Huffman at all. Like, they're in it, but really dove into other people and other people's conversations, because they had tapped his phone for a long time before they actually got him. So they had all these conversations that they have with other people and clients and stuff. Really, really well done. It explained it really well. It doesn't make you feel any better about it. They did go into Lori Loughlin's daughter a little bit, which, none of it ever made sense to me, because it was like, if your kid isn't good enough to get into the school in the first place, your kid doesn't want to be in that school. You know what I mean? Like, I never understood that. It was like, why is the parent forcing this on a kid that's going to fail out when you're spending all this money?
Right.
Like, but it's a status thing. And, and again, anyway, it does go into the whole classism thing, and it goes into the whole issue with universities, and that best college lists are only based on prestige. They're not based on graduates or anything like that.
Right.
A lot of these people were saying they would love to get rid of standardized tests, the ACT and SATs, that they really don't show anything. It was so for that, like, if I had a kid going into college and there was a lot of that sort of information about colleges and how you can get a good education at a place you've never heard of versus an Ivy League college. And I think those of us that never had that intention go, well, yeah, we believe that.
Sure.
But the kids who are just like Ivy League or nothing, for whatever reason, they've been indoctrinated into that. So very interesting. I found that stuff way more interesting than the scandal stuff itself. But still, it's a good documentary to watch and kind of see. And so supposedly now the universities have shut down that whole side door thing that he was doing by allowing in, athletes / fake athletes, and that sort of thing. But probably not. I'm sure things are still going on. So,
I'm sure it's been replaced by something.
Yeah. The rich will always get.
Well, I mean, there's too much money to be made by people. Well, so they'll figure out a way.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Operation Varsity Blues on Netflix. It's worth checking out.
Okay.
All right. So moving on to television. Last podcast we talked about WandaVision and how much we love the series. Mm-hmm. And then after the series was over, they came out with this new show on Disney Plus called Assembled: The Making of WandaVision. So we watched that, and I just thought we would talk about it to follow up on the WandaVision thing.
Okay.
And this was great because, we went through the series. We had all this stuff. They did talk about a few Easter eggs, but it really was about the making of with the effects and the trickery, that they did, and how they taped the first episode with an audience live to tape, like the Dick Van Dyke Show would have done, where they were doing quick changes behind, the set, and the actors had to memorize their lines and do it all live. So
not only that, but a lot of the special effects with the old,
on a wire,
stuff's flying around on a wire and that sort of thing. The actual effects that would have been used at that time, which lends a higher level of authenticity to it. Right? Yeah. This day and age when anything can be CGI'd now, especially Marvel, right? Who's probably the top of the line for it now.
Right.
To do that was it was really cool to see, how they did that and how much effort they put making sure they did it that poorly. That they stuck to the best that those effects would do, and that was it.
Right.
Yeah, it was really kind of cool from a technical standpoint.
It was. Even seeing Vision, they made blue because the blue shows up as red and black and white. It was like,
well, the contrast is better in black and white,
right?
With blue versus red. So,
right.
Yeah, it was all the little tricks that they developed in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
They really utilized, even though, they tried it.
Yeah.
They tried to do something different, and then they're like, nope, they really had it figured out. We got to use blue instead of red.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really kind of, for somebody who's really interested in the technical stuff, like me, it was a really interesting little documentary on how it was made.
Yeah, and it went through the whole series and how they did the air fights, how they did talking about the story and the storyline and all the actors talking about their characters in more depth and stuff. It was very good and a great follow-up to the whole series.
Yeah, and it wasn't just, Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, and it was, everybody. I mean, Randall Park and Kat Dennings and all the actors who were only in every other episode or something for every, smaller parts. They kind of touched on everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely worth watching after you've watched WandaVision. So that's Assembled, the making of WandaVision on Disney Plus.
Yep.
Okay. Next show I'm going to talk about is the second season just ended of Servant, which is on Apple TV Plus. This is, if you remember me talking about the first season, it's a show. I don't know what's happening.
I gave it a shot.
You did?
Yeah, I watched the first episode.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's
so good.
It's just not my thing.
It's such a great show. It's the only complaint I have is that the episodes are only a half hour, and they really should be an hour or two. I mean, I could watch this thing forever. It's so, first off, the look is so great. Everyone in it is so good. And if it were longer, maybe they'd give me more answers and I can figure out what's happening. But the second season lived right up to it. They have revealed a lot. I'm still not it's one of those things though where like they've revealed a lot and so you can guess, but who knows if my guess is right. So like my sister and I keep kind of going, you think it's this? I don't know, it could be this. But it's so good. It's like, who cares? And this is produced by M. Night Shyamalan. His daughter has directed and written some of the episodes. And all the other directors and writers are so in his vein. It's like, if you liked any of M. Night Shyamalan's movies, you will love this. The way it's shot, sometimes I'm like, are we sure he didn't shoot this? Because this is definitely his style. He loves that look. He loves that shot, whatever it is. So for me, that just makes it all the more better. But man, it's good. And I honestly can't tell you what's happening. I mean, there's something about angels and possibly demons, and I don't know for sure, but I honestly don't know. And I don't care. That's the best part about it, is I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, if you tell me something, great. But I am still so into it that I could care less. And Ron Weasley's in it. What's his real name? Rupert? Somewhere. I don't know. Ron Weasley's in it. And he is like...
All I can think of is Rupert McClintock, but I don't think that's right.
Yeah. Why can't I think of his name? Anyway, he's doing the best James Spader impression like that I've ever seen. Like, I love his character because the family's like very like kind of old money in Philadelphia and stuff, and he just comes in and like he's snorting coke and drinking a snifter of brandy, and then he has some wine, and just his American accent is very much like a James Spader, like totally James Spader from the 80s, you know, from how he was always that rich kid. And that's all he reminds me of in this, but it cracks me up. But he's also really, really good in this too. So anyway, I love this show, Servant. Like I said, they're short episodes, so it's a fast watch, and binging it is the way to go, because when you have to wait week to week to find out another sliver of information, it drives you crazy. So definitely go check it out on Apple TV Plus.
I was right. Rupert Grint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's what I just thought of that, and then I just double checked.
Yeah.
It's Rupert Grint.
Okay, good.
So there you go.
The next show I'm going to talk about is an English show that finally came to Hulu, and I was so excited, so I binged the crap out of it. It's called Staged. This is a show with Michael Sheen and David Tennant, and it started last year when the pandemic first started, and I've been trying to find it on YouTube. I've been trying, and I probably could have, if I really wanted to dive into it, I probably could have found it somewhere illegally online and watched it, but I didn't. And it finally came out on Hulu last week, and I was so happy, and I was so happy watching it. So they've done 2 seasons now, and both seasons are on Hulu. If you don't know who they are, then shame on you. Michael Sheen is one of my all-time favorites. And David Tennant was Doctor Who. I'm sure that's how most people know him. Anyway, this was just a breath of fresh air. Watching these two, which they've done a lot together, and they're always fun to watch. But this was more like, so the first season was set like they were supposed to be doing a play, and the director said, well, yeah, since we're in a pandemic, we can't really do it well. Let's go ahead and just try and rehearse over Zoom anyways. And it's these two personalities, you know, they're playing themselves, but dramatized and stuff. And they never really get to rehearsing because things just come up, and their attitudes and egos and all sorts of stuff, and they're playing best friends in life, and so they also have really good discussions and really funny discussions and all of that,
which they do.
Yeah. And then the second season, they reveal that the first season was in fact all staged for the television show, that there was never a play, that there was never, any of that sort of stuff. And so the second season, then the premise is that America wants to do a version of stage, that it was such a hit, right? America wants to take it over, but not with Michael Sheen or David Tennant because they're unknown in the US. And so they're pissed, but now they have to start working with other actors to help them become them. So now we've got all these other actors that come in. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost come in, and Michael and David have to talk to them about the characters of themselves, and that doesn't work out. And so then Ewan McGregor comes in, and who else? From Downton Abbey, Crawley, what's his real name? Hugh Bonneville. He does it. And then finally it comes in with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Cate Blanchett, which is one of the most hysterical scenes.
Oh my God, that's gotta be.
Oh my God. I was laughing. I mean, even, cause I don't laugh out loud much when I'm by myself watching TV, but these two are so funny and they're so good. And I just I could watch 10 seasons of this. I could watch so much of just these two. And then everyone's like Judy on the first season, Judi Dench came in, Samuel L. Jackson came in, and it's all over Zoom, quote unquote, it's all over that sort of thing. And their wives are in it with them, and they're their real wives. And that's funny because you get to see their relationships open up a bit. And I loved every single second of it. And all I kept thinking was, I have to go watch Masters of Sex. I have to go watch Broadchurch. I want to just go watch both of these guys again, wherever I can watch them. Like right now, Michael Sheen is on Prodigal Son, but he's not on enough. It bothered, that's the only reason I'm watching the show, and he's just not on it enough. But I can go watch Masters of Sex. I can go watch any of his movies that I love so much. Michael Sheen on 30 Rock is some of the funniest stuff. And David Tennant, I love in Broadchurch. And I was thinking the whole time, I was like, I need to get you to watch the first season of Jessica Jones, because David Tennant is so good in that first season that I think you might like it now that I'm getting you into more of the real Marvel stuff. So anyway, it's just so good. It's just so good. Just give it a shot. And I'd love for you to watch this. I'm not sure how funny you'd find it. I don't know, but I'd love to give it a shot.
Well, I like both those. I like everybody you've mentioned. I like. So.
I know. And oh my God, I just love Michael Sheen so much. I don't know why. I just, from the first time I saw him, I've just, anyway. So it's called Staged. It's on Hulu. Check it out. I don't think it's for everyone, but it is. It's just really fun and funny. And
someday you'll realize that it was for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. Last one I'm going to talk about is season 2 of The Unicorn just ended.
Oh yeah.
So I thought we'd talk about that.
Yep.
Because this is a show that after the first season, we were gung-ho. We said, all of you need to go back on Netflix and watch the first season. Check it out. It's such a good show. And now the second season ended with, again, only 13 episodes. And overall, it's still a good show, but the season was not as good as the first one.
No, the first one was fairly unique and so good.
Yeah, dealing with the loss of his wife and how the friends deal with that, how the daughters deal with that, how he deals with that.
Yeah. Well, the first season was really about him being the unicorn.
Right.
And the second season was more just,
when he got into a relationship, it got boring. Yeah. And I think they knew that, and that's why they stopped it.
Yeah.
That for me, because again, the point of The Unicorn is, supposedly, which is such a horrible name for a show, is that, he's a widower, he has children, and that's supposedly what all women want. which doesn't make any sense to me.
So I think it's a little deeper than that. I think he's widowed, but he's a really good guy.
Right, but that's kind of implied. Like that's the point, is that if you're a widower, well, you didn't get divorced, so you must be a good guy because you were married and you've got children, so you're just a good guy. Like that's kind of the implication of the whole thing. Anyway, so in this season, he did get a girlfriend. Some of it was kind of funny. Some of it was interesting. But to me, and again, even once they broke up, the last like 3 episodes or whatever have been better because they have gone back to dealing with, he's a widower. He doesn't really know how to act with this, or thinking of the girls that need the mom or something like that. Like, I like that more than I like him having a girlfriend. And even in this last one, Delia talking about Jill, his wife who died, like the friends still working through their grief, that I like that. And I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority there.
No, I like that stuff. Yeah, I like that stuff better than his relationship stuff. Now, having said that, I think the woman who plays Shannon is great.
Yeah, I've always loved her. Yeah,
she's fantastic, and her character interjected a lot of humor into everything. So it just felt like, because again at the end it was like he was ready to have her move in with him, and I was like, that's too fast. Like that was weird. So it went too fast for me. Maybe that was the problem. I don't know. Yeah, it would have gone from a show about a unicorn,
right,
a widower, to a new couple raising kids.
Yeah,
it would have gone. That would have been way
family.
too fast a transition.
Right. And we've seen blended family shows a million times, so I don't need that just yet. Like, let's still stick with like how we ended the season. He's got basically 3 women after him. So let's see what happens with that. Like, I kind of like that. It's funny, and he's such a good guy.
Right.
He doesn't know how to handle that, which I think is the funny part of it.
Yeah, he could be a player, but he's so not.
Right.
But he ends up in player type situations through almost no fault of his own, just kind of, coincidentally.
Because he's just a good guy.
Well, he's a good guy who kind of, does a couple things, but it like escalates quickly on him, like at the very end.
Yeah.
And it's his reaction was really good. I like that.
Again, that's the main guy is Walton Goggins, who I'm sure everyone knows. He's really good. All the friends, the whole cast is just wonderful. I love them all so much. So I hope it comes back for a 3rd season. And we'll see what happens. I don't want it to go away. That's for sure. Because I still enjoy it enough. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
So I'm sure the 2nd season of The Unicorn is probably on Peacock. So I would say, it's definitely worth following the story still. So if you went and watched the 1st season, go check out the 2nd season, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's it then.
Whew,
so we're going to move on to Matthew Broderick, and
now that I have my phone and my list, I can partake.
All right. So, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
I have a lot of honorable mentions at the end. So,
this is my shock.
I love
face.
Matthew Broderick. I know.
You probably have just about everything he's ever done in honorable mentions.
Yeah, because it was hard for me, because I don't like to put 8 in a category. I like to only have 2, 3 at the most. So there were so many left over that I just didn't want to leave all of them out. Anyway, okay, so movies you love.
Okay, The Producers.
Of course.
That's probably my favorite. That's my top 10 favorite all time. And certainly my favorite Matthew Broderick thing. Yeah. And my favorite Nathan Lane thing. And I think Nathan Lane makes it, but Matthew Broderick is the perfect complement to
they
Nathan
are
Lane.
together.
They're the perfect duo for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
yeah, it's also under my love. It is perfection. There's a lot of people who actually don't like the movie version. But if you were not lucky to see them on Broadway, this is what you have, and their interaction is still pretty perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
That's also my other love.
Classic. I mean,
absolute classic.
Yeah.
I mean, that introduced us to so much as kids, right?
Yeah.
That was where you learned to skip school.
Yeah.
Period.
It's a classic in like every sense of the word.
Yeah.
You know, there are some movies that are called classics that kind of fall down in certain areas or whatever, but this holds. This is a classic all the way around.
Absolutely. Like it's the fun of skipping school. It's the good friend he is to Cameron. Mm-hmm. It's the good boyfriend he is. You know, he's super smart with like how he uses his computer and stuff to synthesize the snoring. Jennifer Grey is the sister, and beating up the principal is hysterical. You know, like it all works, and none of it was like overdone. He's not an over bad over good. Like he's not anything, you know, he's just looking for a good day off.
Yeah. I think thinking about this actually, I think the only slightly overdone bit was how clueless or easily fooled the parents were. You know, it was kind of a caricature of 1980s parents.
Yeah, for sure. That I mean, again, if you go back to that, those parents, that was how it was. Yeah, you know. So it's just great. Yeah. It's absolutely great. Where there are a lot of 80s movies we can go back to now and go, oh, that's problematic. You know, 16 Candles and you know, there's just a lot that we can go back and go. Oh, no. Mm-hmm. Ferris Bueller does not have that problem.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. You have more?
I have one.
Oh.
I don't have 8, but I got 3.
Okay.
And this could actually go in the like.
Okay.
War Games.
Okay.
The first time I saw that, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. Now, I dipped into it a little while ago, a couple weeks ago it was on, and I watched it, and it's still good. It's obviously dated.
Yeah.
And it doesn't quite hold up, you know. It's another one of those things that my memory of watching it at the age that I was when I first saw it is so much more than watching the movie now.
Sure.
You know, it's just another one of those. Yeah, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's great for that.
Exactly. Okay.
That's it.
That's all I have for my love is just the producers and Ferris Bueller.
Okay.
So movies you like.
Godzilla. 1998 version.
Yep.
You know, Godzilla Takes New York. And the Stepford Wives. I liked it. You know, it was good. I liked it.
So here's the thing. I know people hate that movie. I watch it quite often.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because I like it or I just like everyone in it. You know, and it actually was a little twist for me where Glenn Close, you know, Christopher Walken was actually the robot. And Glenn Close actually ran the whole thing, and she was the super smart woman. Like, and I did like all the women in it that were so smart, and it was like these horrible men that just couldn't live up to their super smart, successful wives. I never saw like the original Stepford Wives, so I don't know the difference between
I don't either.
This one and that one. But yeah, I also like that Matthew Broderick's character in the end decides he doesn't want to turn his wife into, you know, the goody thing. He allows her to be her. It didn't make any of my lists, but it is on an honorable mention because I do enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
What was the first one you had?
Godzilla.
Oh yeah. That's on my honorable mention, but you know
Gojira.
How I am with Godzilla.
I know.
But that one I did see back then, and I did continue to watch. Just, you know, weird. All right, so my likes are probably somewhat strange. Well, Addicted to Love we talked about with Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
When we were talking about her stuff, I love that the both of them together. It cracks me up, and it was just one of those, you know, rom-coms that I just love. I put B Movie under here because I really enjoy that movie.
I almost did, but it's like, yeah.
And he was good. You know, again, that voice. It's like you can't miss Matthew Broderick's voice, and he was again the uptight, so stressed out, angst-ridden best friend, you know, and he loses a stinger, and so he has the cocktail sword on his. So anyway, it's a fun movie. I just love that movie.
Yeah, that's almost typecasting.
Yeah, well, I mean, you go through most of these roles, and that's what he does. And then The Road to Wellville is this movie from the 90s that I don't know why, but I fell in love with. I used to have it on VHS. I watched it quite often. It's back when, I don't know if people have ever heard the story of Kellogg's, the cereal. There was this doctor who believed that red meat and all of that sort of stuff was led people to masturbation and dirty living and all this stuff. And he like invented the cornflake and believed that the cornflakes were the thing that everyone should be eating. And he like had this, back in the 1700s, probably this could have been 1800s. He had this wellness center where people would come and they would cleanse and do all that sort of crap. Anyway, so this movie, Anthony Hopkins plays Kellogg and John Cusack is in it. He's come to like try and expose the place, and Matthew Broderick is there with his wife, and they're there to supposedly cleanse, and it goes through like all the colonics and all the different things. And he's of course this uptight guy who doesn't want to be doing any of this stuff. And, it's just a funny movie. I found it very funny, and I don't know why, but it's like, it's one of those that's always in my head. That choo choo choo, that is the thing you do. Choo choo. That song is from that movie.
Oh.
So, okay. Because they have to chew so many times because that's better for their body. And oh God, yeah. I can't believe I know so much about this stupid movie. I'm sure no one knows it, but I enjoy it.
What was the name of it?
The Road to Wellville.
Okay.
It's a good cast, really good cast, and interesting movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Movies you hate?
I didn't. So again, I don't hate this. For me, this category is hate/dislike.
Yes.
Biloxi Blues. I didn't finish it. I didn't care for it.
I love that movie. Are you kidding me?
I'm not. But I feel like I should
Neil
be.
Simon play. It's so good. And I love that movie. It didn't make my list. I had a hard time because I was trying to fit it in somewhere and I didn't want to go over my thing. But I love that movie so much.
Maybe I should give it another shot.
Yeah. It's a hard thing sometimes. Again, the place and content can be hard, but I love him in that. Yeah. Okay. Any others?
No.
So I have The Freshman. I'm not a Brando person, and I don't really remember the movie, but that's part of the problem is I watched it and never watched it again. So I put that here, as well as Lady Hawk. I remember watching that as a kid and like being like, what is going on and what is this? And I've never chosen to watch it again. So I just put that in the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Movies you secretly love.
Tower Heist.
Yeah, mine's there too.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
I know. And it's not one of those that whenever it's on, I have to stop at it.
I do.
I know. Because
it's always on.
A lot of times I'm in the room and there we are. But when I do, watch it for any period of time, I kind of get sucked in, and it's like,
it's a comedic Ocean's 11. You know what I mean? Like, it's all these comedy people, Ben Stiller and Eddie Murphy and him and Casey Affleck, and I mean, it's so Alan Alda being the bad guy. We've talked about this on here a few times. It's just a well done movie, and I like watching that unfold every single time. So yeah. Okay, what else?
That's it.
Oh, okay. So I've got Tower Heist. Of course, I have Election. I don't know why I put it under Secretly Love instead of Love. It's an absolute classic, and I can't. I mean, Tracy Flick is one of the best. Best.
Okay.
And then I don't know why I put it under Secretly Love other than Love, but Glory. I mean, I've talked about this with you. We talked about it with Denzel. You have to watch this movie. It's so good, and Matthew is so good in it. It's again off of typecasting for him on this one, and really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Haven't seen. Embarrassed you haven't seen.
Glory.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not making that up. It's right there.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Just you just went on about it. And
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I don't have any. And then do you have any you're adding to your watch list?
The Freshman.
Oh, yeah, have fun. I'm not watching it with you.
Well, odds aren't great that I'm going to watch it if you're not.
All I remember is like was it an iguana or alligator or something that I don't know.
Well, they're similar.
Anyway, my honorable mentions. I had War Games, Biloxi Blues. Night We Never Met was another little movie that I just loved. Lion King, of course, even though now we go, oh, the whitest person in the world was playing, an African lion. Doesn't make sense. But I still love the original, so I'm still going to put it in there.
Yeah.
Cable Guy. Oh, God, I love that movie. Cracks me up. I had Godzilla. He did The Music Man. And it was like, the ABC, musical thing. And at first I did not like his Music Man. I didn't like his Harold Hill. I didn't feel like it was in the same vein. It was, it was hard to watch him at it. But after repeat viewings, I came to really love it. And I do like that version a lot now. I had Stepford Wives, Deck the Halls. Again, him versus Danny DeVito. I love when he plays that guy, when he's that cable guy, and this one, where he's just that angst-ridden, even in Tower Heist, he's like that.
Anxious guy in over his head.
Yeah, just, he's so good at it.
Yeah, he is.
B-movie, he did an episode of Modern Family, which was actually a really funny one, where he was like this newly come out of the closet guy, and he thought that he was going to Phil's house to hook up with him, and Phil had no clue. He thought they were just watching a football game. It was a really funny episode. And then he just did the Christmas Story live a couple years ago, where they turned Christmas Story into a musical. I will always love Matthew Broderick doing musicals. It warms my heart, and so
yep,
that's it.
Love our Matthew Broderick.
My love for Matthew Broderick. And a girl I grew up with actually is, I didn't even think of that. He's like brother-in-law. So anyway, okay, that's it.
Whoa.
I know. I'm so tired.
It's nap time.
We will be back in a couple weeks, right? Will we be into April?
As far as I know.
John will definitely have his first vaccine by then. Yay.
Yep, I'm getting it Wednesday.
Yes. Hopefully I will get it the following week. We will keep you updated on that. We hope all of you are either vaccinated or on your way. And we're going to get through all of this and be able to leave the house again.
What? That's crazy talk.
We don't leave the house. Doesn't matter.
I don't even remember that. Where is the car?
Yeah, we don't leave the house, and if we were down to one car right now. Yeah. Jeez.
Which
anyway,
we don't even need.
I know. All right, you guys, have a wonderful couple weeks, and stay safe. Wear your masks.
Yep.
And we will be watching our stories until then.
Be good to everybody.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.